Hi there, it's Jeff. Do you have a DIY project coming up where you've got to put lots of handles on your new cupboard doors? Well, stick around and I'll show you how to make this simple, quick and easy jig that'll make that process a lot easier. The first step is to cut an off-cut piece of board that you're going to use as your base of your jig, which could be plywood, MDF, Perspex, or in my case I'm using a piece of 16mm melamine. And this needs to be cut long enough to suit your handle length, with a little extra also to suit the distance you want from the top of your door to the top of your handle position. And in my case I'll be around about 50mm down from the top edge to start off my handle and 50mm from the side edge. Then you need to cut some strips that will overhang, which you'll see later in the video how this works. They act as a reference to the edges of your door. I've used some pieces of MDF here. One strip needs to be the same length as your jig and the other needs to be the same width as your jig. And as you can see here, I'm just marking these two to the required length to be trimmed. Next, using a combination square set to the required edge distance of 50mm or 2 inches, I mark a line down one edge so it's parallel and then a reference mark from the top edge. This becomes my starting point to which I use the handle as a guide to position and mark the centre of the bottom hole needed next. Then I use a sharp point which helps for the point of my drill bit when starting, and also a reference to the top of the jig which helps when you're putting this together later. Next, I make sure I have the correct drill bit that is ideally the next size over than my actual threaded screw for the handle, and drilling these two holes if possible should be done on a drill press so the holes remain nice and square. But if you don't have a drill press, not to worry, you can use a small square piece of block and position this beside your hole and use it as a guide to keep your drill bit square to the edges of the block. Once you've drilled these two holes, just check that the thread goes through the hole nicely with a little bit of clearance. Next, I've drawn a pencil line in the centre of my strips, which is 30mm wide or 1 3/16, and drilling a pilot hole with a countersink to screw these onto the melamine board edges. As you can see, I've positioned my piece of board on its edge on the workbench, and I've also clamped it down, which helps keep it in position while screwing together. As you can see, those strips really need to be centered so you have a small amount of overhang on each side, which will make this jig reversible. Now you can see the jig in action, and it can be used after you've attached your doors. Those strips that I screwed on act as a guide or a reference to your door's edge. You can also clamp the jig onto the door to prevent it from moving whilst you're drilling. And I'm using the same drill bit I used on the jig, which works well with the handle threads. Well, there you have it. Quick and easy, simple little jig that you can use to help drill the holes through your doors. It's reversible, so you can use it on left and right hand doors. You can use it with your doors on the workbench or on site when they are attached, as you saw in the video. And just made out of some scrap offcut pieces lying around in the workshop. And my pro tip here is, when you're drilling through with your drill and you've got your door on the other side, it's a good idea to have a little bit of scrap on the other side of the door, so when the drill bit goes through your door, it actually hits into this and it'll just stop that little bit of chipping on your door where you've got to put your threads through. It's not a big deal, but if you want them to be looking nice and neat, that little offcut and drilling through into that helps. But usually the threads on your for your handles here, they usually have a bit of a wide button, sort of a head, and it will cover a little bit of chips, but if it does get excessive, well then that's where you're going to notice it. So little pro tip there. Hope you liked this little video, and if you did, press like and subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you in our next video.